Welcome to this week's tip, which is all about branding. And I know that might be a little bit of an intimidating topic for some of us. I know for me as well, actually, when it comes down to it. But I have someone very special joining us today, and I want to have her introduce herself and share a little bit about the work that she does. And then we will jump into a little bit more about branding. Courtney, you want to say hello?
Thank you. My name is Cortney Wood. I'm a freelance graphic designer, and that just basically means I work with a variety of companies and organizations and help them to create effective marketing materials. I have worked recently with charter schools in the San Diego and Sonoma counties, working with them on things like trifold brochures, staff business cards, event postcards. And I've had a lot of fun doing it, but I've also noticed how much of a need there is for fresh and inspiring design.
I know we all could use a little extra love in the design department. There's so much that we could talk about, and I think we'll find other opportunities to dig into some other tips and tricks that you have for design in general. But for the purposes of today, I want to talk a little bit about branding as a starting point. And so why don't you talk a little bit about why branding in general is so important? And it's not just for schools, really, it's for all organizations and everyone who
Mhm.
has a message to share and a voice that they need to put a look and feel around, right?
Absolutely. I mean, in the simplest form, branding is identification. And the important thing about it for organizations and schools and individuals and small businesses, large businesses alike, is to kind of create um, a synergy between the the outside image of your business or organization and link it to its internal messaging. So you really want like the message, your goals, your personality to be seen in the outside image or the brand of your business or organization. It's so important to really nail down your brand messaging, what message you want to send to the people that you're reaching, before you even start thinking about the design, because those decisions and those goals and those missions are what should be the foundation of building your brand.
What would you suggest as a first step for those who, and it could go either way. So there's those of us who have some of the basic elements in place already. We may have a logo that's already gone through all the review cycles and that's what we're using. No questions asked, but maybe there's other elements that aren't in place yet. Or those that either don't have a logo finalized and have been waiting or pressing pause to deal with that at a later
Mhm.
time. So I think we're all sort of on a spectrum, I guess.
Right.
And I don't know if there's one sort of next step for all.
If you do have like a logo and maybe a set of fonts, usually it's like three fonts: a headline font, a subheader font, and a body copy font, and your color guidelines or 3 to 6 colors that you use throughout your materials. If you have those items in place, you're a step ahead. Like you have those items, you just need to pull them together and put them on a document that lays everything out in an effective way and make that document available to anyone who's responsible for creating deliverables for your organization or your company. Um, if, however, you don't have those items in place, then you're really kind of you're you're not at a disadvantage, you're at an advantage because you don't have those things in place. Now you can go back and you can say, okay, I have the ability to start a strong foundation here and now. And the first step would be to really clarify your messaging, your goals for your organization and how you want to be perceived, and then work with a professional. That's always going to be my biggest word of advice, is to start off on a strong note and work with someone who has experience and who can really help you create that strong foundation so that you feel confident in all the materials that you put out. Brand guidelines are the first step in doing that, which we're kind of talking about, is having that document with everything that represents your brand. And brand guidelines can be simple, and they could be as simple as your district logo or brand logo, your color palette, and your fonts. Those three things. That could be where it starts and where it ends. For schools or districts, maybe that's including graphic elements or graphic styles. If iconography is used a lot throughout materials, solidifying a style for icons so that everything's not looking like it's coming from different places and the style is clear, it's apparent. Maybe there are letterhead templates or PowerPoint deck templates, and those are really helpful to include in brand guidelines because they can be used indefinitely or until your brand sees any changes. But an exercise that anyone could do if they're kind of like, well, I don't know, like if I need, a revamp of my brand, or if I have everything I need, an exercise that you could do is pull up any like recent digital deliverables that you have, whether that's newsletters, your website, pull those all up on your computer screen, or if you have print materials, lay those all out somewhere on your desk, on the floor, wherever, and ask yourself if those items, when you're looking at all of them together, if they look like siblings, if they look like cousins, or if they look like strangers. So the goal, of course, is to have them all look like siblings, like they're all created with the same purpose. And if they look like cousins, there's a little bit of a disconnect, and maybe that's for those of you who have, those different pieces, like your logo files accessible and a specific color palette, but everything's not in one place and easy for people to access. If things are looking like strangers, then that's where it's a disconnect and you're losing the credibility or professionality of having, a basic set of guidelines for everyone to follow.
I guess my next question would be kind of what's at stake, like you've already sort of alluded to it. It's related to credibility and how you attach a look and feel to the message that you the core message and goals that you have as an organization. But like, what's at stake if there's a disconnect in how it's being communicated? Like, why is it so important, really, at the end of the day? Like, why make the investment, I guess?
Not only, like you said, and like I had mentioned before, is it helpful for building your credibility or being noticed and, maybe being chosen over your competitors or things like that. It also it's a lot more efficient to have a well-designed and thoughtful brand in place. You're not spending as much time creating deliverables because you have a set of guidelines that you're following. It's a time saver, really, and you might be spending time and resources and money up front, but there's a purpose to it, and the purpose is to have organization, to feel good about the things you're putting out, to lose all of the frustration of trying to piecemeal things together. And overall, when you build something that you're proud of, whether it's through marketing deliverables or through the overall view that people have of your organization, everyone within your organization feels that, and it creates a more positive and exciting environment. People are enthusiastic about where they work and are excited to show people things that represent the place that they work or the things that they've created. So it's kind of like an energetic thing too. Like, it really does create a positive environment and gets people excited.
I love that. That's a really important point. And, anything we can do to create a positive, sort of unified kind of culture and climate in our organizations, I think any way we can do that is really important. So that's a really good note to make around the guidelines and around branding in general. And, once these are in place, we sort of talked about how to put these into practice on a day-to-day basis, making them accessible and making it known that this is just how we're representing ourselves as an organization. So I think that's great. One other thing came to mind, and I think it's an interesting point to just mention quickly is when you're working with organizations on this kind of exercise and building the look and feel of their organization, who are you typically working with? Are you working with the leader of the organization directly? Do you see some being more collaborative in the process where they reach into their community and get feedbacks? I know in school environments and district environments in particular, getting the community's input on almost anything is incredibly valuable. And so I was just curious if you've seen that in action or if it's more of a small team effort.
A lot of times I've worked with principals who are very busy and have a lot that they're already handling, and it really slows down the process. So I think that would be a really great thing for the organization to figure out before they reach out to someone for outside help. Like if they do want to reach out in their community, figure out like whether it's board members or members of the community that volunteer or donate or whatever it may be, having them come together and have a meeting or have meetings set to discuss these things and really kind of make it a priority. Because I think, like I said, with busy principals, it's hard for them to not only like really be in tune with the process, but find the time and resources to make decisions, because they're big decisions to make. And when you're part of a big organization, it shouldn't fall on one person's, shoulders. It should be a communal effort.
Also, more chance that it'll move forward in an efficient way.
Right.
It doesn't get dropped along the way just out of necessity, moving on to other things. So,
and also the unique perspectives and feedback that could be, provided through collaborative efforts that maybe would be missed if it's just one individual to one individual.
Right. I guess with that, did you want to add anything else before we sign off?
I don't think so, but thank you so much for having me, and I'll keep an eye out if anyone has any follow-up questions. I would be happy to get back to them.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Courtney. It was great to see you.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Thanks all.